A special thank you goes out to all the booth holders along the Carnival Strip. Your commitment to maintaining a clean and orderly environment has not gone unnoticed. We appreciate your cooperation and community spirit throughout the season. Please remember that the deadline to vacate the Carnival Strip and remove all booths is this coming Sunday, May 11th at 6 p.m. No operations are permitted during this time of removal. This year, we introduced a booth competition with judging criteria, including a compliance with rules and regulations, an aesthetic appeal, and carnival-themed creativity of the booths. I am proud to announce for the first time that booth 19, Windsor Gardens, emerged as this year's winner. Their vibrant decor and carnival spirit stood out above the rest. And as a prize, they will receive an automatic spot on the Carnival 2026 strip with their booth fee waived. Booths throughout the village along the strips were exceptionally showcasing their creativity and passion of our people this year. We thank each and every one of you contributing to the Carnival experience. The parades this year were absolutely beautiful. From the vibrant costumes to the high energy performance, they were a true feast for the senses. Congratulations to all troop leaders for your creativity and vision, and to the winning troop, well done. Social media played a major role in amplifying our carnival this year. We saw a noticeable increase in videos and content featuring St. Martin, including spontaneous promotion from influencers, what I like to call our very own brand ambassadors. Next year, based on this, we aim to better coordinate influencer marketing to encourage the use of official hashtags. This will help us streamline our digital branding and increase global visibility. Hashtags are not just trendy, they are powerful marketing tools. They drive engagement, they organize content, and they make it easier for international audience to discover our events and culture. On a more serious note, the police department reported multiple altercations, and although only 10 arrests were made, which according to them less than last year, for them it was an okay year as compared to last year. But while this is a relatively small number, it's still cause for concern. However, I must make an address about the public intoxication, particularly involving teenagers. I want to appeal to all parents. Please speak to your children about responsible behavior and the importance of safety, both for themselves and others. Our children reflect the values we instill in them. Let's guide them to enjoy our culture responsibly and respectfully. We must work together as a government, parents, schools, and community leaders to protect the next generation and preserve the family-friendly spirit of Carnival. Another area we must improve on is the presence and promotion of new and original music. Yes, coming from me. This year, we saw a noticeable lack of abundance in fresh local tracks. Unfortunately, not enough to support from the local radio stations in pushing the songs that were released. As a result, many of the songs heard during Carnival were not even produced in St. Martin. Even more concerning was the increase in vulgar and obscene language in most of the music played, especially during parades and roads events where children and families were present. Carnival is a national celebration, an official event that welcomes all age groups. We must ensure that music reflects a level of respect, responsibility, and cultural pride. Next year, we will be addressing this issue with clear guidelines and restrictions on lyric content, particularly during family-oriented events. These measures will be included in the upcoming MOU with SCDF. As a government, we are committed to supporting our local artists, songwriters, and producers, and I already have some ideas to jumpstart this initiative, and I'll be sharing more details soon. All in all, Carnival 2025 brought back a wave of nostalgia while also highlighting the strength of the cultural identity. Before I close, I also want to thank Koiman also for the support And that beautiful video that they made about the boot holders, the history of the boot holders, they brought history back into what Carnival means for us. And as we look ahead to 2026, I encourage all DJs coming back to the music, bands and artists to prioritize local music, elevate our sound, help keep our heritage alive through music. I may just have the platform to make that happen. And if all goes according to plan, something great is coming next year. So stay tuned.
So then I wanted to talk a little bit about why the validation is so important. And I think one of the main issues identified ahead of the validation phase is a discrepancy between the brutto and the netto salary of some, which in several cases led to unintended salary loss. And that requires careful recalibration to ensure that no employee experiences a reduction in their take-home pay as a result of the placement. Because what we were seeing in some instances that you put a person in a certain skill, but when you make a net calculation, they actually have less money than they were getting before. So then it's, hey, wait a minute, I can't put them in this trader, I gotta maybe adjust the trader. So that was one of the things that we were noticing before this validation was put into place. Then another key issue is that there's incomplete or inconsistent personnel file history, particularly regarding events prior to and beyond 10-10-10. And these gaps have had a direct impact on placement decisions, requiring adjustments to accurately reflect each employee's service history and their entitlements. Another contributing challenge has been the inherited overformation in certain departments expressed in full-time FTEs, combined with the presence of functions that no longer exist in the function book. This has resulted in more complex and nuanced placement decisions, particularly in determining how and where individuals should be placed within the existing framework. We have quite a few examples of individuals and functions that somehow or the other disappeared out of the function book, and then that person is working there doing a particular job since Jesus was a child, and then the function is gone. So then we need to look at then what you do with this. So this also makes the situation all the more complex. And as a result of that, some employees have been assigned to comparable, or as we say, passende functies. And these are positions that match the scope and level of their work, but may carry a different title or classification than what they previously held. And this has understandably led to questions and concerns from the personnel. So it's become clear that additional attention must be given to the communication and to the explanation of these placements to ensure that the employees not only understand the rationale behind their assigned function, but also feel respected and informed throughout the process. This is something the ministry is taking seriously and working hard to address moving forward. Overall, the reality is that we had 14 years of changes in personnel history, including transitions in and out of government, varying salary scales, and moving from department to department, which has caused for a lot of complexity and accurate placement. And this is why we also deem this validation process all the more important. And again, it's why I noted that we're right now in the final stages of signing an engagement with SOAB so that they can conduct the validation on behalf of the ministry, because I'll be honest here on the floor of Parliament that we are also stressed and thin within the ministry when it comes to financial controllers and individuals who are equipped to carry out this type of work. And it's why we have had to look for an option to outsource. This is also a hypothetical situation, and not really hypothetical, it's actually one that we've come across, but a scenario in which you see that, the validation is important. So let's say under the old system, a worker was actually performing duties that were equivalent to a senior legal advisor or a senior policy advisor, but their title in the payroll system was simply listed as administrative staff. And then when you get the new function book, then there's this discrepancy with the proposed placement that comes with a lower salary scale and doesn't reflect the actual responsibilities that that person carried out. So for example, the role didn't exist by name in the old records, but was clearly defined in the new function book. The salary was misaligned with the actual duties due to outdated or vague job titles. Sometimes we saw entire departments have disappeared. And it's a complex procedure. And what we're seeing here, however, is that this, once this validation phase really helps us to gather all that information, because the added complexity as well within justice is that in the past years, we've also used 4 different payroll systems. And then you have documents that are in one system in Join, you have some that are in DACOS. So there's parts of this individual's personnel history is scattered over various places. And there's sometimes that you can't even find the documents then. It's when you talk to the person that they come and say, oh, but I have this email and I have this letter that I received. And it's why we really want to get that full picture, because I feel like if people have waited this long, that we owe them the respect to take them seriously and to listen to them and to really make sure that they get the proper things handed to them. Then again here, what we see as some of the benefits of this new approach is that we hope to then reduce delays and objections later in the process. Because again, I don't like to sell people hot air and pipe dreams, and it's one thing you give them a LB, but then they're still unhappy, and then they still have to go into an objection, they don't hear anything back, and God knows how long then they have to wait until they get that proper placement. So we're really hoping to have those conversations and those discussions earlier in the process so that there's more understanding later and you're not going to get the objections after. I should also add that in the new objection procedure that we would be using from batch 14 and on, the initial objection then is to the objection committee. If you are still unhappy with your LB after it has been issued by the governor, then you would have to go to the ambtenarenrechter, to the civil service judge. Then again, we also feel this new process ensures more transparency by sharing the proposed placement with the individual or the proposed LB prior to it being issued. And it gives the justice workers a real voice in the process. We also feel that it ensures a fair outcome by incorporating this advice from the objection committee. And hopefully, that we can deliver error-free LBs, because I think the reality of it is that, again, despite our best intentions, that there have been many errors in the process. And we're learning from it, and we're trying to move ahead in ways that every time with every batch, I think you learn something new and how we can do this better and do it different.
.24/7 TV programming on www.stmartinmediacenter.com, SXM Daily News, PBS NewsHour, Now You Know, Com programs, documentary, entertainment, sports events, Saturday children's hours, religion programs, and movies. Click on SXM TV broadcast to see your favorite programs.
minister did go very fast through a report, and it was very hard to keep up to even take notes with it. So I would actually like to see if it would be possible, or through the chair lady with the feed, if we already received the report, because I tried to keep up with it. And in terms of initial reactions, I will say that the most revealing aspect of this process around the function books is that it seems very far away again from where it initially started, in the sense of the greatest amount of corrections or let's say progress in it that started under 2 ministers ago. I'm a little bit concerned in terms of the process, where it is now or what has to be done versus where it started. And the reason I say that is because initially, when we were like getting updates from this, we learned that, okay, yes, it's going to go through in batches, and there's a process that was explained to us beforehand, but it seemed to be working, right? Because we were churning out the LBAs faster. And then where we see an improvement in the system, because I tried to take some screenshots while the presentation was happening. When you see a new, transparent, and efficient approach, what would be really nice for us to be able to compare is where the improvement suggestions or the new way of working, how that will compare versus the old one. Because when I read some of the things in terms of the phases of compilation, validation, phase 2 of the draft LBAs, where the employees have a chance to review it and then object within 30 days and then go into finalization of signing by the governor, I thought it was very similar to the existing process. So it's just to really like pinpoint where the delays are, because in a nutshell, I just feel like I'm being told that it didn't work, and so now we're going to fix it. But I don't feel like that is the case, because it was already, stuff was already happening before. So I'm just a little bit confused because we went through it so quickly. Anywho, I do take note of the fact that the minister also mentioned that some difficulties rose because there's 4 payroll systems, and I want to find out what the plans are by the ministry to consolidate maybe or simplify or centralize payroll systems. I also take note of the fact, so I'm going through the questions of why I think maybe a lot of things are coming up, issues are coming up, but I'm still confused as to the process. So I take note of the fact that it was mentioned 2 members resigned, and I'm just wondering whether really the reason that we're seeing a delay or lag in the LBAs is because of people resigning or no longer being there that was really pushing the project forward, if that was even the case, that they were pushing the project forward. So I also heard the minister talk about probably outsourcing it to expedite it. But again, it goes back to my initial comments and confusion of it was working before. We were getting stuff done before. So the stall, it's not about blaming a minister or blaming an individual. It's just the stall happened. So I don't understand the stall. I really, really honestly don't understand the stall. The only one that I remembered is exactly as the minister presented, which was the reason why the prison is so complicated and nothing could happen there.
Minister of Justice, through you, Madam Chair. I don't know if you were ever a civil servant before, but next month I'll be serving this country by lance spotlight for 18 years. The first time I came into service, my initial lance spotlight, including my classmates, were wrong. Nearly every other lance spotlight after that also had discrepancies, where it is no secret that I personally took government to court, moreover on my own personal matter, and that of over 100 Amtanarazakan. It is everyone's God-given right to do besoir. As Minister of Justice, your job is to make sure that the execution part of these LBAs goes out. Minister, as you mentioned, I am your predecessor and my predecessor before me, even though I had issues on the way she executed certain things. It's a continued process. This month, Minister, you will have the same amount of time that I had in office. And the minister before me delivered 6 batches. I also sent to the governor about 6 batches, plus batch 13, that you're telling me in nearly 6 months after my departure that I actually started when I was Minister of Justice under my tenure. First and foremost, yes, I understand when a key component of the process left the organization, but there was also other key components. There was a law firm that was busy undertaking every single procedure that I understood that you, Minister, got rid of. That also has a major impact on the organization. So, Minister, I would like you to explain to the people of this country why was one of the major law firms that was busy with the process of validation as well and creating these LBs was also removed. As I understand, has been some personal tension there, but I will say this, the people's business is also personal to me. So it is important that the continued service also go forward. I will continue by my questioning through you, Madam Chair. Minister, before I left office, a bourgeois committee was formed by my person to address the discrepancies that were made. Is this committee still in place? And if not, what alternative does this minister have in place? Through you, Madam Chair, what plan does the minister have to expedite the processing of the batch moving forward? And what timeline does the minister have in place for completion of that batch? Have remaining justice workers received written confirmation regarding their placement, scale, and legal status? If not, why? Minister, I would like to also elaborate on the fact where you was talking about certain functions no longer exist within the organization. But there are current situations that I'm being faced with where employees have received Landsbesluiten with a total different function name on their Landsbesluit. The validation process is to see where the person was, where they actually work, and a definitive decision has to be made based on where they're going to be appointed. And some organizations, there are different frictions and personal matters, but your Landsbesluit is very sacred and is a powerful one. So the only way one can change or transfer into another position if they agree to it. In a sense, I'm gonna tell you one person that I understand, I wouldn't call a name, but how can their Landsbesluit have communication on it and tomorrow they end up with they're going to get a Landsbesluit for medewerker in another function? Again, moving forward, that position in the new organization, the salary scale has changed. I mean, it's higher than their actual scale in the old organization, and people are not supposed to go backward. I will further explain. For example, when I was a juvenile and vice detective, in the old system, it was scale 6. In the new system that we currently have, it's scale 8. However, when I went there, they decided to place me still in a scale 6. I contested that Landsbesluit in court, and it was honored that I be given the scale 8, and at that time, the function book was in concept. Why? Because we have something called presidentscheppen, and we have something called jurisprudence. Meaning, what happened for someone else before in the same like situation under dezelfde bestuursorgaan, which is the Ministry of Justice, you cannot differ from. So, whether there was a LB for the new function book or not, precedence was already set within the organization from the time we had community police officers that were not placed in our old functions at the time, but then Minister Duncan saw it necessary that we enforce this, and that was used in court. And today, every single person that attested their Landsbesluiten based on that concept received a correct Landsbesluit based on what they applied for. I'm going to say this, Minister. I have given you ultimate chances and times. Many people approach me and say, when would you deal with this minister on these topics? I said I would give her 6 more weeks, as you will have 6 months and 3 weeks, the same amount of time that I've sat in that position. Because I don't want to hear any more excuses as to why the people can't get what they are due to get, Minister. It is very important that you see and deal with this matter. Whatever personal issues that may be going on within the organization that you may have, or your staff apparently may have with other individuals that is delaying this process. You are that decision maker. Minister, to you, Madam Chair, have budgetary allocations been made to ensure full payments? In saying so, I did not hear, and maybe I missed it as I stepped out briefly. These retroactive payments are supposed to go back from the 10th of October 2010 for the individuals that started within the Netherlands Antilles before 10-10-10, and those upon their appointments thereafter. What is the status on the function? What is the status on the retroactive part, which we had discussions on phase 2, when it comes to issuing the full payment, back payment from the initial start of each individual within this country? How does this ministry plan to prevent such payment delay in the future? Again, I will say, as each minister has their own vision for this country, we always have to be reminded that the people is its first priority. And I will reiterate again that everyone has their rights based on Artikel 35 van de regeling ambtenaren rechtspraak binnen 30 dagen na het ontvangen van zijn landsbesluit om een bezwaar in te dienen. Dat is hun recht. That is their right, Minister. So delaying the process for you to ensure that their landsbesluit is correct, it is not your duty. Your duty is to ensure that it's issued. And today, when those people see their stuff, if there's any discrepancies, as I've also seen landsbesluiten with date of birth mistakes, they are human error, and the person have their rights to appeal. With that said, Madam Chair, I thank you.
It's time for a new brand that is as bold, vibrant, and colorful as the island of St. Martin, with colors drawn from our diversity, cultural heritage, and nature. Our breathtaking beaches, waters, and sun, the majestic brown pelican, our national symbol, the radiant yellow sage, our national flower, the historic border monument signifying the Dutch and French sides, our exciting cruise, yachting, and boating ports, renowned Maho Beach and St. Martin Airport, the hub to the Caribbean. All these parts come together to create the shape of the island of St. Martin. More than a logo. It's a new brand that engages, excites, and will inspire travelers to book. It's time to tell the St. Martin story, to reintroduce travelers to St. Martin, to honor our past, to embrace our present, and shape our future. Our culture and diversity, Dutch and French sides, unrivaled cuisine, twice the nightlife, entertainment, and shopping, cruises, boating, and yachting. Twice the adventure, exploration, and relaxation. Splendid and scenic accommodations. Pinel, Tentamar, and island hopping in the Caribbean. Whatever your taste, St. Martin has more. Experience twice the Caribbean. St. Martin.
24/7 TV programming on www.stmartinmediacenter.com, SXM Daily News, PBS NewsHour, Now You Know, com programs, documentary, entertainment, sports events, Saturday children's hours, religion programs, and movies. Click on SXM TV broadcast to see your favorite programs.
Absence of a proper mental health care facility is a critical gap that needs immediate attention. I would like to now share with you initial findings as an assessment carried out on behalf of the ministry as to the state of affairs of mental health in St. Martin. The capacity assessment's main findings are as follows. Capacity assessment finding number 1, there is an incomplete coverage of mental health care needs, which entails not all care activities provided are registered at Mental Health Foundation. B, mental health care is also provided outside of Mental Health Foundation. Lastly, C, some mental health services are not available on St. Martin. Capacity assessment finding number 2, there are hidden mental health care needs. This entails stigma associated with mental health. B, low literacy about mental health. C, cultural beliefs affecting help seeking. D, lack of qualitative services and choice. E, poor prevention and insufficient lack of early detection. F, also practical barriers like patients' mobility and work hours. Lastly, the lack of reimbursement of certain treatments. Capacity assessment finding number 3, population demographics, challenges with aging population. This entails A, St. Martin is dealing with an overrepresentation of people ages 50 to 60. B, we have a small working population base. C, our island is dependent on tourism, which affects its stability. Lastly, the migration after disasters reduce our workforce. Capacity assessment findings number 4. Looking at the capacity issue, which entails the Mental Health Foundation is the main and sole provider. B, if mental health is not an option or funding is not an issue, there are long waiting times for treatment. C, there is a shortage of psychiatrists, psychologists, and specific psychiatric beds. Lastly, which leads to the need of more psychologists, specialized nurses, and dedicated facilities. Next one. Yes. Capacity assessment finding number 5, rising demands, which entails there has been an increase in both the number of patients and the need for treatments. B, additionally, there is a higher prescription rate. Lastly, furthermore, there is a greater awareness and demand for mental health services in the post-COVID-19 era. Capacity assessment number 6, patient trend. This entails there was a slight increase in the number of patients, rising from 735 to 850 between 2017 and 2021. B, alongside this, there has been an increase in the number of treatments provided per patient. Lastly, C, additionally, there has been a noticeable shift towards more outpatients and ambulatory care. Capacity assessment finding number 7, clinical care occupation, which entails A, the occupancy rate in clinical care standards at 50%. And lastly, there are ongoing issues with room availabilities and the mix of patients. Capacity finding number 8, integral care needs, which entails there is a growing importance of holistic, community-based approach to care alongside specialized treatment. And finally, B, collaboration among general practitioners, specialists, and social services is essential to provide comprehensive care. Capacity finding number 9, perception and legislative needs, which entails there is a clear need for modernized legislation to address the current mental health challenges. B, while there is a positive outlook on community-based approach, there is a need for more clarity in their implementation. C, public awareness and prevention activities remain insufficient, further hindering progress. D, youth mental health has been largely overlooked and requires more attention and focus. E, there are currently no facilities for forensic care, which creates a significant gap in services. And lastly, there is a need to improve the mental health care facilities' community image to foster trust and engagement. These were all the main findings with regard to the capacity assessment that was carried out. Madam Chair Lady, that was the first part of the presentation that basically states the state of mental health on St. Martin. The second part is how we intend to move forward with it. Okay. In this presentation, we will focus on the short and midterm needs. The short and midterm needs. St. Martin mental health services are currently insufficient to meet the growing demands. Significant enhancement in staff, facilities, public awareness are required to meet future needs and aligned with international norms. Even though it is easy to say, the real question is, how do we actually achieve that? This will be achieved by prioritizing 2 key focus areas when it comes to mental health care. First, finalizing the National Mental Health Strategy Plan, and 2, the completion of the mental health facility funded by the Trust Fund.